morning, good afternoon, wherever you are. This is Don Gertz, and I'm with my friend Greg, and this is Greg and Don's Excellent Adventure. And Don vanishes a little bit because he's got his virtual background on, but hopefully that won't be too distracting for you. But anyway, maybe it's because I'm wearing a kind of a green shirt as well. So,
Well, you look pretty clear there, so don't
yeah.
worry about it.
All right. Well, if anybody's wondering why all of a sudden his shoulder goes out, it's because of the technology. But anyway, let's have some fun this morning, Greg, and we wanna ask a question, and the question is one thing that you wish you knew when you started that you learned later on in your career. So what would that be?
Yeah, that's a good one. Um, Honestly, you and I have talked about this before, and what I always I attribute a large part of my success to starting to understand the different personality types that people have. And the reason why I say that is because, back in 2000, I don't know what it was, 2004 or 5, when I started learning how to identify different personality types. First of all, I didn't know why I needed to, but then I quickly understood why. Uh, just understanding, be able to identify people in their certain personalities allows you to know how to respond to them in a better way. So when I learned that trick of understanding how, there were different personality types and how to deal with them, I noticed that my sales increased by about 50%. And, so my career started to take a real leap forward and upward, just because of understanding what those different personality types were. So for me, why it was so important was because I was able to actually communicate better, understanding what the motivations were of other people and their types, like their personality types, understanding their motivations, what inspired them, what didn't inspire them, the way they actually, how they make decisions about what they do. This was huge for me understanding what I needed to give them to help them make a decision as to whether or not whatever it was I was selling was right for them. So yeah, it really, I wish I learned that way earlier in my career than just in my 40s, because that was a significant step forward for me.
Yeah, for me it was the idea that I should have kept better track of who my clients were, because a lot of our business in real estate is comes from a repeat and referral business.
Mhm.
And I think, looking back on it, I didn't always do the best job of nurturing those relationships. And I mean, it could be partly because that's my personality type. My personality style is that I'm not really a people type of person. I
Oh, really?
yeah, I can tend to get lost in some of the technical aspects of the role, but it's one of those things that whether it's a strength or not, it's something that you need to, there's some things you just need to do, whether you're good at them or not. You just need to, if you're not good at them, you need to compensate for them and build for them. So, but but
Yeah.
what but why do you think it was important, for your to learn about the different personalities? What was the main thing that you found that you think was the most important aspect of that?
Well, I think if you think about, you've even said this. You talk to certain types of people. Why is it that we can seem to gravitate and speak easily, get along well, right away with somebody? It's just you just click, and then other people you have a real struggle with. And that, what is that, 50% of the time? Is it 20% of the time? Is it, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
So I think you lose opportunities if you don't know how to communicate well with everybody. Then that means that you're limited to a certain few, which are usually the personalities that are like you, right? The
yeah.
people that you seem would be like. But what about those people that don't? Maybe they're dominant type of personalities, or maybe they're very detailed like yourself. How do you respond to them? And when you learn what motivates those personality types, you can actually adjust your communication style to theirs. That's why it's so important. All of a sudden, I wasn't only just hitting maybe 25 or 30% of the population that I was speaking to. Now I was hitting more like 50 or 60% of them. I could actually have a great conversation with them. And then my sales started to increase because of it. That's why it was so important. I understood what was motivating those people. What kind of decision styles do they have? You know, how can I what should I say and what should I not say? Somebody in sales might turn around and say, well, heck, you should really know what to say and what not to say. Well, it helps out when you understand how those people make decisions.
Understanding how they make decisions and how they might respond to a certain circumstance, and what's
Yeah,
what's their motivation. Because when you understand their personality style, you have better insight into what motivates them.
yeah.
So it's all works together. For
Communication is key, man.
yeah,
When you can understand that, you open up a whole new wave of people that you can speak to that you normally wouldn't be.
yeah,
Now you can understand where they're coming from.
yeah. So by understanding your client better, you actually broadened and increased your base. You increased the number of people that you were able to talk to.
Precisely,
Yeah.
precisely.
And
And
when you do that, your numbers, if your closing ratio is 25%, say for example, if you're only able to talk to 50 people, then your closing ratios or your closing percentage is going to be 12 people, right?
yep.
Thereabouts. And if you increase that to 80 people, I'm trying picking 80 because that I can do that in math better, because 25% of 80 is 20 people, right? So you've increased the number of people that you closed. You increased your close from 12 to 20, or 13 to 20,
Yeah.
so that
And
there.
that translates into more income. That translates into more business. It just translates into a lot of great things that work in your favor
Yeah.
and theirs too.
Yeah, particularly, I think um, some of the things that you used to sell. I mean, and like for me in real estate, it's you don't sell something every day. I wish I did, but
You can't
realistically,
you don't join that one sale a day club.
yeah, I mean that's just not what happens in real estate. I mean, if you sell, the average is less than one transaction per month,
Yeah.
per for a realtor. And a good realtor can sell two, have two transactions in a month. And a really busy realtor is going to do three. And then you start getting into those higher numbers, and it gets pretty incredible. But the idea is, with the significant increase, this it's a lot of, the commission for one deal is a lot bigger than if you're selling, something small.
Yep.
So understanding is more important, I think, when you're, the larger the ticket item you're selling, the understanding the person's personality types is becomes way more important.
Well, even when I sold yachts, the same, very similar to the real estate business because it was just that. I mean, you come across a lot of different personality types, and being able to understand that was really helpful in building a relationship with these people and some kind of commonality or common ground, and which was our interest in boating. But likewise, what you had said too is very important. I mean, you've got to be able to stay in touch with your clients, and you've got to be able to understand them. I think those two things go well together.
Yeah, they do, definitely. They definitely do. Yeah, I think when you have the systems, but to stay in touch, that's, a follow-up system. That's where I think, we
Yeah.
uh it's important, to say, okay, how, what happens now, like after the sale, what's the process, what's the after the sale, because that's when a realtor or any salesperson can can leverage their relationships into a more successful career. And it when you get into understanding your numbers, like having the systems and saying, okay, I contacted this many people and blah blah blah. You break it all down. Your business becomes way more predictable. And you can actually
Yeah.
say, okay, if I do this and this and this and this, I should earn this and this and this and this, and that makes it easier.
Well, heck yeah. Predictability is a great thing, especially
Yeah,
in sales, if
but if
you're
you
able to do that.
yeah, but if you don't have those systems of follow up, you're not gonna have that predictability in your business.
Well, and here's an interesting point too that I like what you're talking about there, because anybody who's listening to this episode, especially if they're starting out, I not only have a process for how I connect and sales process, but to me there's an after sales process that I have, and it usually entails sort of an automatic way of how I keep in touch with my existing clients. Now, it's not every day that I do that, obviously, but a couple of times a month, there's some kind of touch that goes out to them that basically says, I'm still here, I'm interested in who you are and what you're doing. I'll make maybe a call a month, but there is a system and a process, and I think that's an important thing for successful salespeople or anybody building a business. Basically, it's an important factor to that, because that's how you want to keep in touch with those people.
Absolutely. So
Yeah.
let's go back to the idea of understanding personality styles. How would you, what steps would you take to implement that? Would you recommend that a person implement that when, if they're starting out, or what would you like to have done when you started? How would you have implemented that? What would the steps be that you took?
Well, a lot of organizations unfortunately don't teach this stuff. I was with at the time I was with a marina when I was selling boats that actually brought someone in to talk about DISC, DISC, and that's when I learned. But if I was, it depends on what your company does for you. But if it doesn't, then you should be reaching out to someone who provides uh, training on that, and getting an assessment done yourself, which is of course you. I'm kind of pointing the direction to you.
To me,
Because yeah, to you, because you do that kind of thing, and it is important. And I'm not just saying it because Don's a wonderful guy. I'm saying it because it will increase your ability to connect with people tenfold. And so for me, if I was starting out somewhere, depending on what kind of training program they had, I would definitely go out and invest in this myself, because, like I say, my income level increased 50%. Not just my income level, the depth of my relationships with other people increased considerably because of it.
I
So
think when we look at it, thanks for the plug, by the way. But like um, self-awareness, knowing where you are, and knowing
yeah.
how you do things is definitely the first step. And then, because that knowing how you respond to certain circumstances will help you understand why someone else might do it. But it also opens your eyes to your blind spots, because we all have our own blind spots. So being self-aware of what your blind spots are, like say you're a high, you mentioned the dominant type of an individual. So say you're a high D type of salesperson, which is a lot of salespeople are high D type salespeople. Your tendency is to just go for the win, right? Like that's your tendency, is to just say, okay, I need to close this sale. So that you're driving towards that. But then if you come up against somebody, or come up, where you're trying to serve somebody like myself, which is a high S, I want to have time to make a decision. So I'm gonna maybe drive you crazy, because I want time to make my
Mhm.
decision, and you want me to make the decision right away. But if you understood who you were, you could maybe make an adjustment to the way that you sell, if you recognize my style as well. So
Yeah.
that's where it becomes very, very valuable. And I
Yeah,
think,
and that's where the rubber hits the road for sure, because that's where you start learning.
yeah,
You learn and you earn at the same time, because I'll tell you something, that's when you're able to understand what somebody else's style is, you can actually ride that to help them get what they want. You know, the most important thing is when you're starting out, no matter what it is you're doing, whether you're a solo act like a real estate agent or boat sales guy or selling insurance, whatever it is, find a company or someone like Don and uh, pay the money to learn to get your own assessment done, understand where you're at if you haven't done that. Don mentioned a very good point about self-awareness, because that's what this is all about. I teach a course on self-awareness, clarity, and setting your goals and hitting your goals. And that's all part and parcel of that. And that's important. So invest the money in yourself, find out what your personality type is, if you don't already know, and then find someone who can sort of teach you how to go through this process in understanding other people's types of personality. That's
yeah.
what I would do.
Sometimes I find it interesting that we're willing to spend lots of money on advertising that doesn't always work, but we're loath to spend money developing ourselves. You know,
Oh, it's crazy. It's I've said that so many times. It's unbelievable how much money is spent, how much good money is spent, and it's good, it works, but then how much money is spent that doesn't work on marketing. When in fact, some of that budget should probably go to your personal development or professional development, I should say. And when you start to get to that point, it pays off huge.
yeah. I think Warren Buffett said that the best place, or the best thing you can do in building a business is to develop yourself first. That's I paraphrase that a little bit, but generally typically that's I think a good way to say it. And others have said that if they were to invest in anything, they would invest in public speaking. You know, as a way
Yep,
of developing themselves, is learn how to be a better public speaker. You know, so there's lots of
well,
things we can do to develop ourselves. You know, but the whole idea,
yeah, and
you know, it starts I think with knowing who you are, knowing what your strengths are.
absolutely,
You know, yeah,
it all starts there with your mindset, who you are, where you're at in your life.
yeah,
And all of that makes a huge difference in your result in the end.
yeah,
It all depends on you and what you're willing to, how you're willing to open your mind to new
yeah.
possibilities. But that is definitely one of them. The other one, as you mentioned, is, basically having a process in place to keep in touch with existing clients.
And that's like developing a routine. Like
Yeah,
it's just I know sometimes people don't like the word routine, but we all have a routine, whether we like it or not. You know, we all have a routine. It's just when you develop your own routine, and you're able to craft it so that it actually is effective. You know, not something because you do things. Well, try it this way. You know, and then okay, well that worked. Well, then maybe I'll add this to it. You know, but you're doing it haphazardly. You know, if you do it that way, whereas you've actually sit down and say, okay, after the sale, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to have a system where I'm going to follow up with the people. I'm going to put them into my database. Like I think, I think the idea is to find a CRM that you're going to use, customer relations management. That's, CRM. But
yep.
the only CRM that's worth its money is the one that you're going to use, because
That's right.
there's some of them out there they'll actually replace the idea of having an assistant for you. They'll plan your
Yeah,
whole day. They'll tell you, okay, call this person, call this person. But if you don't use it, it's not worth anything. So figure
right.
out what you're going to use, and then do it, and then plan it. But
Well,
plan,
it's formulating a habit, right? And I often say is, if you're full of bad habits, or you don't think it's like you say, some people don't like the thought of a routine. Well, you still have a routine. You just don't want to call it a routine. It's not making the bed and waking up at any time. It's still a routine, right?
Yeah.
Why not put into place something that's actually going to work, where you can keep in touch with people, and just like you say, it's only worth it if you use it.
Yeah.
And that's part and parcel of it, is these things will work for you if you let them.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's I think kind of what I would say is for making sure that you have a system to stay in touch with people is develop a routine. You're after the sale. This is what I do, and then review it every month, because you're not going to get it right the first time, right?
Yeah, no,
you're
it
not going to
takes
get it right the
time.
first time.
Yeah, it takes time to put these things in place. So,
It takes time. Yeah.
um, yeah,
Well,
no, it
Greg.
was a good conversation.
Yeah. Greg, thanks for joining us on Greg and Don's excellent adventure. And today we were talking about what it is that we wish we knew when we would have started in our career. And just glad that you're with us. So thank you very much, and have a
Thank
great
you,
day.
Don. Appreciate it. Bye.